Greetings from the late afternoon, everyone. Or at least that's when I wrote the script. I won't tell you when I'm recording this, though. Just a quick warning before the video starts. There will be some spoilers for Terraria and Minecraft. I'm not going to go out of my way to spoil stuff, but I won't refrain from spoiling relevant information. That being said, let's get into it. Minecraft and Terraria are both really popular games. And for good reason. They're both well made and really fun. Just honestly awesome all around. But there's something I noticed a while ago which interests me about them. A lot of people will describe Terraria as a 2D version of Minecraft. And sometimes you'll hear the other way around, but it's a little less common just because Minecraft is more popular and everything. But anyway, I get it, right? I understand why people describe them like this, and I've even done so when I compare them to each other for people who don't know what one or the other is. It makes sense. It's pretty intuitive too, and in some ways it's not even that wrong. But still, Minecraft and Terraria have very significant differences, and I want to talk about them since, well, I like both games and want to rant. But also, if you find this interesting, or if this helps you in whatever way, then great. So, starting off, while I do believe that Terraria and Minecraft have a lot of differences, and I will hold to that, first, I will admit that they also have some significant similarities. The first thing, and probably most obvious, like, even just when you see the game for the first time, they do share a more pixelated art style. This isn't too significant gameplay-wise, but it does play a part in the vibes of both of them, so, you know, it can matter. And I would also say that they have similar lighting styles, which again doesn't affect gameplay that much, but vibes, basically. Of course, with both of these there are differences, but this video isn't really about that, so I'm not going to be going over that. And besides, basically anything I could say would be blatantly obvious in the first 5 minutes of looking at the games, so that's just not the main point of what I'm saying here. What I do want to talk about is that they have differences beyond just art style. For example, they both contain mining, building, crafting, and fighting as core parts of their gameplay. I don't know if that would be plural there, but I don't care to look it up, so whatever. Let's say whenever it comes to building and mining, and also just to the structures of the world in general, but let's just talk about building and mining. They both use a tile-based system, where blocks will be arranged on like a grid, so they fill like set units of that grid, which in these cases are cubes or squares. Basically meaning that whenever you mine or build, you will mine or build along that grid by those units in like consistent amounts, rather than some games, I guess, will do like inconsistent amounts, if that makes sense, where if you mine or build something, it'll be a little bit less, it'll be less consistent, it'll be inconsistent, you know? But neither Terraria nor Minecraft do that, so it's worth bringing up, I guess. And then whenever it comes to, like, crafting, for both games, you'll need certain craft stations to craft certain things. And then, again, in both cases, this will lead to having a bunch of different ones so that you're able to craft anything you need to. Also, both games have, like, big platforming and exploration elements where they'll have a lot of focus on looking around and navigating the environment, and you'll get rewards for doing so outside of just pretty nice graphics. A lot of the time you'll be looking for materials and treasures by mining or looking for structures, you know, that sort of thing. There's a lot of stuff you gotta look around for, basically. But I would say that whenever it comes to similarities, a lot of the stuff I said here, that's really most of it. I mean, sure, there are a lot of like smaller similarities or sometimes more thematic ones, but that's not really what this video is going over. It's not supposed to be that in-depth. This is going to be focusing on the main things. So now I would like to get into the main differences between Minecraft and Terraria. So let's talk about the fundamentals of both Minecraft and Terraria and see how those differ. I'm mainly talking about the gameplay side of things here, but there is something important I want to mention first. Terraria is two-dimensional, while Minecraft is three-dimensional. Big shock, I know. I cannot believe we were able to deduce this. But seriously, I don't think that this affects the quality of either game that much at all. But it does differentiate them. In general, this will lead to pretty different experiences between the games. For example, in Minecraft, you've probably heard the rule don't dig straight down. It's a good rule and can protect you from dangerous situations, such as falling in lava that you couldn't see before because you can't see everything around you because there's blocks in the way, because it's 3D, which makes sense. But in Terraria, on the other hand, it generally doesn't matter if you mine straight down, because you'll easily see lava long before you actually touch it, because it's 2D and you can see what's going on around you even if it's behind stuff, which also makes sense. It's a different experience, even though in either case it isn't necessarily worse. But anyway, moving on to gameplay stuff, like I said before, it is true that both games have a lot of focus on mining, building, crafting, and fighting. But how Terraria and how Minecraft integrate these like core aspects and ideas can be very different. You may have noticed that when it comes to playing Minecraft, a lot of people will focus more on the building side of things than much of anything else. This is because Minecraft, in the first place, is a sandbox game before any other genre. Most of the game's focus is on the building and creativity aspects of it, rather than things like fighting or exploration aspects. This can be seen in like the first build of the game, where there wasn't fighting, there wasn't really any exploration, it was just building stuff and messing around and putting your imagination into this, nice little 3D landscape. This is unlike Terraria, where fighting is arguably the most important thing in the game. Defeating bosses and swarms of enemies is a huge part of Terraria and makes up a lot of its gameplay. While there is also attention on the building and creativity parts of it, the fighting is mainly what Terraria is about most of the time. You might notice both of these trends when either of the games have updates too. Generally, whenever Minecraft updates, people will talk a lot about the new blocks in the game, while in Terraria, people will talk more about the new bosses or enemies. Of course, in both cases, basically everything in an update is talked about, but I still think it's worth noting because it is fairly noticeable and does come up a lot. But while the fundamentals might kind of end here to a degree, the differences don't. And I want to talk about another thing. And honestly, I think this next part will be a little more interesting. Hopefully. I really hope that this is an interesting video. So, the way you progress in Terraria and in Minecraft are very different from each other. Say, in Minecraft, you'll progress by finding some ores, mining them, upgrading your tools, and repeating that cycle a couple times. Maybe you will trade with villagers, or enchant your equipment, or fish, or do any of a number of things outside of this to assist your progression, but overall, it's kind of small, isn't it? I mean, the progression in Minecraft. There are a lot of things you can do, but how powerful you are doesn't change that much to me. Yeah, you'll get a lot more defense. Yeah, you'll do a decent amount more damage. And yes, you will move a lot faster. I will admit, you do move way faster. But it's... in total, I feel like it's not really that much, you know? I mean, damage, for example, will go from about 4 in, like, the very beginning of the game, basically, to, like, 10 or so in the late game. Compare this to Terraria, where you start with, you know, still a small 5-ish damage, eventually get to 300-ish. I mean, that's a lot, and it's a big difference, especially comparing, like, the ranges. And this is just because both games have different forms of progression. Terraria has a lot of linear progression. You get stronger and fight stronger things. Maybe that'll be through damage, defense, maneuverability, but a lot of the time your ability to battle will become greater. And that's because Terraria is more about fighting and becoming stronger than anything else. Minecraft, though, isn't really about this. It's about creativity, like I said before. And whenever it comes to progression, also survival. Because of this, it has what I call lateral progression. If you've seen my video about gift boxes in FNAF World, you'll already pretty much know what I mean by this, but basically, lateral progression is progression which expands on what you can do in more miscellaneous or just non-linear ways. Say, when you want to increase your survivability in Minecraft, you might make an automated farm of some sort so that you have more food and can trade more with villagers. This does increase a specific metric of your survivability, similar to what linear progression would do. But I still consider it as a form of lateral progression because there isn't a ton you can do to make it particularly more useful after you've already made that automated farm. I have noticed this in a lot of areas of Minecraft progression, where the progression itself isn't really improving on something specifically, but more so expanding your capabilities. You know, automating your farms, or like automating... well, there's a lot of automating, frankly. It's a lot of automating, and a lot of it kinda caps out after the first creation of it. I mean, yeah, you can, of course, improve on stuff, but to some degree, it's just not really needed. And this results in Minecraft having more sideways progression, and Terraria having more upwards progression, meaning that your goals will probably differ in a lot of ways. For many people in Terraria, the main goal is to kill the Moonlord, while in Minecraft, the main goal could be to kill the Ender Dragon, but will also commonly be to make your base bigger and basically do everything, because there's a ton of like different smaller projects you can work on, which plays into that creativity aspect, like I mentioned before. So, Minecraft and Terraria have a lot of similarities, sure, and some of those are pretty important and prevalent, if you will, too, sure, but they also differ in a lot of ways. In Terraria, you'll probably be looking for fighting and becoming stronger, overcoming what can be tough challenges but coming out on top. In general, it's a game more about battle and more linear forms of progression. In Minecraft, though, you'll probably be looking for building and expressing your creativity, or trying to survive in a world which is always about as strong as you are. It's more about lateral progression and being more creative. But, of course, just as a bit of a disclaimer, this doesn't mean you have to enjoy the games in specific ways. I'm not telling you how to enjoy it, I'm just saying what the focuses of the games tend to be. Maybe, instead of this, you like fighting in Minecraft and building in Terraria. That's great. Similarly, you might only like building in both, or only like fighting in both, or something like that. And that's great too. And in that way, they can also be a lot more similar than I talked about here for some people. But still, I hope that it can be recognized that these games are different and have a lot of their unique personalities, which define them apart from each other. And that even though you can enjoy them whenever way you like, you know, they're both sandbox games, they're both exploration games, they're both fighting games, they're both a lot of this sort of thing, that they are still unique, and that they both deserve their own credit rather than just being the version of each other. 2D, 3D, stuff like that. Not that I think that those comparisons are necessarily harmful or problematic, but I think it's more helpful to give a more in-depth description. They're not just versions of each other, they have different purposes in general that they tend to focus on. So yeah, that's why I think they should be considered as pretty significantly different games. Thank you for watching. This is my third ever video essay, so I know it could probably be improved. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that in the description. Also, if you'd like to see more ranting like this, please consider liking and subscribing as you get to see more content like this. Also, little secret thing here. I'm considering starting a new series of video essays which talk about aspects of games in general rather than particular parts of games, like of specific games, like what this video is, where I'm comparing these two. It'd be a lot broader and more applicable to more games. So if that sounds interesting to you, just saying, there's a large red button down there. Or I guess it's actually gray now.